If you didn't know, and this is the first time hearing about it, adventures in Sea of Thieves are officially dead. This was not mentioned in any official Sea of Thieves channels, I just decided to break my NDA to tell you. In all honesty, it was dropped sneakily in a little Eurogamer article teasing some new content and hyping up the Sea of Thieves PS5 launch. Adventures as of March 2024 will no longer be part of the content release schedule, and the previous ones are dead and buried forever. It only took Rare a year or so to really break the news. In honour of this controversial piece of content, I'm here to rank, definitively, the Sea of Thieves Adventures from worst to best. Starting us in dead last is the Forts of the Forgotten. From RNG to no real new activities or mechanics, Forts of the Forgotten was the second Sea of Thieves adventure from March 2022. It had an amazing teaser trailer that featured the Servant of the Flame, Spanish Pinto and Ragetti, and a sneak peek at what Wanda the Warsmith was doing. You know, how it really opened up the B story that no one really cared about? Forts of the Forgotten had players rescue the denizens of Golden Sands after they were kidnapped by the Reaper's Bones. Meeting Belle at the destroyed Golden Sands was pretty cool since I guess we'd done it the month prior. She tells us to bring back a relic from one of the forts. We go to the fort, kill the jailer and open the cell. There's a relic in the cell and we can speak to Wanda, the other Warsmith, and 2 random NPCs for some exposition. We then return to Belle and that's the end of it. It was pretty underwhelming, with the only good things being the discovery of Flameheart's ancient prisoner, which still hasn't been resolved to this day. To earn the special title, you had to speak to all members of Golden Sands, and each time it was random. So in theory, it could take an infinite amount of sea forts to find them. It made the adventure a bit tedious, mixed in with it just being a sea fort, with a new copy and pasted captain in there. In 11th, we have the Hunter's Cry. On paper, the Hunter's Cry sounds like the best adventure. It tasks players with heading to the Sea of the Damned with a replica Sea Dogs tavern in it, and you're matched with multiple crews to assault the tavern and the 3 lighthouses. You battle the Dark Brethren ships and phantoms, and then you save Merrick. But players could still damage each other just like in the normal world, so this led to endless griefing, team deathmatches breaking out, and the story being ruined for anyone who wanted to be there for that reason. It should have been a crew-only experience. It did have some great moments, although these things again were ruined by having random players spoiling the ambience of the cutscenes. Oh, and it deserves to be this low due to so much wasted potential. 10th place, I'm going to go ahead and put the Dark Deception. Yes, it was called the Dark Deception, but the name was removed for no clear reason, as well as any mention of it from Rare's official channels. This was a setup for the Monkey Island Tall Tales of that summer, and had no real impact on the Sea of Thieves story at all. You can't play it anymore, so you won't get the references in the Monkey Island Tall Tales either. It's a big sailing fetch quest which takes ages, and the only saving grace was seeing the Burning Blade being built and using some new mechanics in terms of puzzles. It was painfully obvious the Pirate Lord was an imposter, and even more so when we knew about LeChuck before this adventure even released. And you could just see the fake Pirate Lord practicing his own signature at the back of the book. I think the delays and bad timing messed this one up really, and would have been so much cooler if it actually came out before we knew about Monkey Island. In 9th place, I'm handing this one to Forsaken Hunter. This one had the potential to be an amazing adventure, but was held back on several fronts. It probably has the most sailing and was a good 90 minutes of it. The other is using the lantern to track down the Dark Brethren. It would have been fine if we hadn't had to use it so recently as of Shrouded Islands. However, there were some cool reveals, such as the Gold Hoarder being used as a magic stick, since he has Veil Stones for eyes. Yeah, remember that plot point? There would have been an awesome reveal of who killed Merrick if it wasn't really spoiled in the trailer. That also took away from it. But overall, this felt like it made a decent effort into weaving the B plot, and yes, it is the B plot into the main storyline. 8th is the Siren Prize. This one's not everyone's cup of tea, but I really liked it. Yes, the first half was sailing to the shrines, luckily it wasn't too far. And we got an excuse to actually use the Sunken Kingdom content again. This was a piece of content I thought was underrated and we needed a reason to return to it. We also got the awesome moment on Plunder Valley where we revived the Great Warrior. Yeah, remember that plot point? Despite it creating a confusing split between the Great Warrior being the Sea King and just one of the ancient warriors, it was still great fun and had some interesting lore and gameplay elements. Coming in at 7th is Shrouded Islands. Shrouded Islands was quite nostalgic for me. We were finally getting back to the Flameheart story after a nearly 2-year delay. Does that sound familiar? and we'd be going back to the Sea of Thieves story after taking a break for Disney. Ugh, the fact that it happened again is crazy. Anyway, it was awesome seeing Golden Sands destroyed, and this brought the world evolution in line with how it used to be in the first year or two of the game. We had to solve what happened, and even better, we had to travel to Shipwreck Bay to get some awesome exposition with the Servant of the Flame and how he planned to get his father back from the Sea of the Damned. The sailing wasn't the best, but it was great fun and an optimistic time for the game. 6th is the Rogue's Legacy. Again, a shipload of sailing, but that's part of the adventure, right? Well, Rogue's Legacy was one of the better adventures since it felt most like a tall tale. It had us following in Briggsy's footsteps and solving some of her devious puzzles. They were actually somewhat difficult, like finding out you had to dig at Tri-Rock Isle for the second puzzle. My only criticism is that it basically ends with, it takes time to divine memories from Briggsy's mask, so find out what happens in a month's time when Sea of Thieves continues. 5th is Secret Wilds, and funnily enough, the follow-up to the previous adventure. Despite this arc being ended early and rewritten as of the events going on right now, the adventure left us with an awesome cliffhanger, teasing an ancient temple and monster living in there. It seemed like the next adventure would be amazing. Following Briggsy around to solve the Dark Constellations was really fun. I really wish this mechanic got reused for something. The wilds turning even more green was also exciting, but this was scrapped with the rest of the adventure's teasers. 4th is the Herald of the Flame. We finally got a conclusion to Heart of Fire over 2 years after it being released. Stitchijin was back and was afflicted with the Ashen Curse, and he was planning on betraying his master. We did have to use the lantern again, but this time Pendragon was along for the ride, and it was a nice little callback to Seabound Soul. The Devil's Roar was quiet for the duration of this, allowing us to enjoy the story as we see fit. It gave us the coolest trailer Rare has released, maybe ever, and lives rent-free in my head to this day. And it looked like Flameheart was finally, this time for real guys, but not really, coming back. The fight with Jim as the Herald of the Flame was cool, even if it was a bit easy, and the bit where Flameheart causes a volcano to erupt was superb in the final phase. It's a shame the end was just, we stopped Jim, but not really because his body is missing. It would have been easier just to allow Jim to succeed than that stupid fake out. Anyway, this should be brought back as a tall tale. 3rd is Return of the Damned. I would have put Return of the Damned last if the results had been different. This was our second and final community decision, in which players got to decide to further delay the return of Captain Flameheart, probably around like maybe 2024 or something, saving Pendragon in the process, or have Captain Flameheart return. While I respect Rare for coming up with that dilemma, it made a rod for their own backs by stringing out Flameheart's return for so long that fans just voted to bring him back. Pendragon got banished for fucking around and finding out, and the Reapers got their revenge for Lost Sands. The gameplay was more balanced than before, but was basically still completing sea forts and little fetch quests, but it did really implement a good form of tug of war. It really would have been the best if the choice was more difficult, so it made the community less engaged with their side outside of the game. 2nd is Shrouded Deep. This is a controversial pick due to all the griefing that occurred from it, but Shrouded Deep was the sequel to Hungering Deep that I wanted and replicated it in pretty much every way. We were tasked with getting 6 people to play the summoning after defeating the 4 other colours of Megs in the 4 corners of the map, so you had the potential of the most sailing out of any adventure. Oh, and you needed at least 2 separate crews to even start the final battle. But the final battle with the Shrouded Ghost was awesome, even more so when the Reaper Ghost ships join in on phase 2, and then Pendragon shows up for phase 3. A storm rolled in while we were doing this, and it made it even more awesome. It was epic, it felt new, pushed the story forward, and released on the same day as Legend of the Veil. I only did not put this first because, well, first place has to go to Lost Sands. And whilst Lost Sands did have issues like Rare not communicating the scoring method properly, and a somewhat boring gameplay loop, Lost Sands was the most I've seen the community engaged with this game. Deciding the fate of the most beloved outpost in the game was a mind-blowing choice, be it save it or shroud it for eternity. Both outcomes would fundamentally change the world forever. It also gave the player the first real choice of siding with the Reaper's Bones, and began the shift from them being the bad guys to a genuine alternative to the Pirate Lord. Memes were made, animations created, bribes handed out, and propaganda was being passed around. Myself and my good friend Captain Blubber participated in all of that too. This was a fantastic time to be a Sea of Thieves fan and a part of this community. The outcome is still observed in-game today with the creation of Port Merrick. I am now the rower supreme for my crew due to how many rowboats I blew up on the shores of Golden Sands, and my fingers have tiny little six-packs on them. It's a shame this won't ever happen again, because it would be awesome to see this kind of adventure return as an event. What was your favourite adventure? What was your least favourite adventure? Please let me know down in the comments below, or just give me your whole ranking of all 12 of them.